Release the Kraken.
Good morning, Hockey Nation fans and friends and family. Thank you for joining. It is Monday, December the 12th, and this is your Detroit Red Wings update. We had a exciting game on Saturday night versus the Dallas Stars, who are having a great year, including by, Jason Robertson. This is our first chance to see him, I think, isn't it? Well, maybe not. Did they play again? I think that's the first time they played them this year. Anyways, I have to check. I'm making that up. But if you watch this game, you got to see Jason Robertson in all his glory. Super, super dangerous player. This is an exciting time for young players like Jason Robertson who are really coming into their own. Jason Robertson is currently third in NHL scoring with 42 points, only 1 point ahead of the great and powerful Tage Thompson of the Buffalo Sabres. Who would have thought that third and fourth in the scoring race would have been Jason Robertson and Tage Thompson? Crazy year. It's an exciting time to be a hockey fan. And the Detroit Red Wings did not disappoint. They did play an excellent game after a really rough game earlier in the week. A blowout game. They went back to Ville Husso, and of course they are night and day with Husso versus Nedeljkovic. So much so that actually Magnus Hellberg has been called up from the AHL. I don't know if that's a solution, guys, but that's what they're going to. At this point, there's not much, loss in going to Hellberg or a goalie trainer. Like, geez, let's put the emergency backup in. 13 days till Christmas. Oh, no, we have 13 days till Christmas. Wow. So, you know what that means? That's World Junior Hockey Championships. This is the most exciting time of the year, Boxing Day. We have Everett Silvertips playing at the World Juniors as we usually do, specifically Olin Zellweger and our coach, unfortunately, is away. So those are two big losses for the Tips, but great wins for Team Canada. All right, so let's get to it. So this game ends with the punchline is 3-2 overtime loss. So after a blowout loss, they do lose again to a much, very strong Dallas Stars team in what was a very, very close game. This is how kind of things shake out. It was 1-1 after the first, 2-2 after the second. And once again, like we see this pattern with the Red Wings, they seem to be able to shut it down in the third. So it was 2-2 after the second and remained so after the third, in which time it went to overtime. Here's, this concerning thing for me. 45-55. This is a consistent pattern. The Red Wings are consistently getting beaten in the faceoff circle. So this is an issue that they're going to want to address. But lots of hits. 27 hits for the Red Wings. This is not your typical Detroit Red Wings, historically, their team, and 14 block shots. So those things are good. However, 8 penalty minutes, not good. They give up 1 power play goal on 4 chances by the Stars. You do not want to be sending the Stars to the power play. They got a lot of weapons. And they get outshot by the Stars. So who held us in? Mr. Ville Husso. The goaltending, big improvement this year. Kudos to Steve Yzerman and all his offseason moves. David Perron factored in this game. Great offseason move. If you look at, I didn't put the scoring up. Geez, let's go find the breakdown. I must have forgot to upload this. What the heck was I thinking? But you can see Dylan Larkin gets them on the board early in the first. I'm going by memory here. That's not a good way to do it. Let's share the game box score, because that is a better way to do this. I usually upload this. So you can see Dylan Larkin gets on the board with his 10th of the season. And Austin Czarnik playing a line with Larkin. Austin Czarnik, a call-up due to all the injuries. We're now down to Austin Czarnik. But, he's playing very well. Like, he's a smaller player, but he's got lots of speed and skill. Detroit area player growing up. So this is good news for the Red Wings that they have. This is another smart, underrated move to grab this guy. And he's played well in the AHL, and he's played well in the NHL. He's got some NHL games, and he's playing well. So Detroit was up early, 1-0. Denis Gurianov, who was a shadow of what you would expect of this guy. If you're Detroit and you're looking at Denis Gurianov, you should really think, is this like a cheap player I can acquire for something that Dallas wants? At some point, this guy is capable of scoring in the NHL. I just don't get how he has 2 goals. Like, other players are obviously stepping up. And he had a rough year last year, only 11 goals in 73 games. But you look prior years, 12 goals in 55 games, 20 goals in 64 games. He's a big, talented winger. And he's just not working out. I got to think that he would work out somewhere else. And given the reclamation, for example, of, Dominik Kubalik, would this not be a good player for the Red Wings to grab? I like this guy. Good morning, Eater Tap. Thank you so much. This is probably my 3rd show since coming back from Doha for the World Cup. Interesting World Cup. We're down to the last 4. We got France, Morocco, shocking everyone. I mean, Morocco's played great. The first African nation. They've knocked off Spain and Portugal now. Argentina still in the mix. So it's France, Argentina, Morocco, and who am I missing? Jeez, I'm blanking out on who the other one is. That's pretty bad. I can't remember. That's so sad. Who am I missing, guys? Nicholas, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you guys. We will be back also, by the way, on Wednesday morning, and I will try to do one live on Friday morning. Typically, I do Monday, Wednesdays, and then a video on Friday, but I can probably do lives this week. And I will try to join you guys, Eater Tap, at nighttime. Just let me know what your schedule is and if you would like me to join, or I'll send Coach a message as well. All right, so just get back to this game. Gurianov, not to get too crazy, only gets his 2nd of the year from Marchment and Sagan. Yeah, 2 of the 4 teams are from Canada's group. Correct, Croatia. So, I mean, Canada's the only team, going back to football for a chance, that has scored against Morocco. Now, I think it was an own goal, maybe, if I remember. Like, did Morocco score it on themselves? I can't remember. Like, they've been a juggernaut at this tournament. I think they have an English coach. So, that's kind of been interesting. All right, so back to this game on Saturday night. Dylan Larkin makes them 1-0, and Denis Gurianov at 18:06 ties it up. Yeah, that's what I thought. So the only team that scored on Morocco is Morocco. Gurianov, I don't understand why this has not worked out there. He's capable of scoring in the NHL. He's a big guy with a good shot, and he's got speed. I mean, someone should grab this guy from Dallas. In the second period, then Jamie Benn having a pretty good year, guys, like 11 goals. And maybe one of the issues with Gurianov is just depth. Like, they have so much depth. They acquired Marchment. Marchment's kind of worked out well for them. Big year from Robertson. Huge year from Pavelski. I think the consistency of Pavelski is robbed off on a young Jason Robertson. And Jamie Benn's having a good year. Tyler Seguin's having a good year. So they made it 2-1 at that point with a power play goal. Too many power plays given up in this game by Detroit. 4 power plays. Dallas is eventually going to score on that. And then David Perron gets his 9th of the year. Assist from Sherratt and Sider. And then that would be it for regulation. So this would go down as basically a tie going into overtime. And then an unlikely source to score in overtime would be Niels Lundqvist, the former New York Rangers defenseman. Did not work out for New York, but he's working out plenty fine. Basically taking the spot of John Klingberg. I don't know if he's as good as Klingberg. Is his 3rd goal of the year. I don't know. What does he have on the year? He's not that offensive, is he? Yeah, 8 points in 25 games. Is that much different than Klingberg? We should check. I'm kind of curious about that because Klingberg, I don't know how much that's working out in Anaheim. They're having a hard time. So that would be all she wrote. But, you know, after a blowout loss earlier, this is pretty good news game. And then we look ahead to another tough game in the schedule. Carolina coming up on Tuesday. So interesting season so far for the Red Wings. We're seeing great performance by all the guys that were acquired. Ville, Husso, Perron, Sundqvist last year. Kubelik's having a solid year. This has been a great acquisition. I think he's second leading scorer still. Everything's kind of worked out from those perspectives, all upgrades, and a great season from Filip Hronek. Is Filip Hronek, like, let's look at where he is in skaters on, like, he's kind of calmed down a little bit, but I mean, terrific. World Cup soccer tomorrow. Argentina, Croatia, France versus Morocco. Thank you so much. Interesting comment by our, let's see, you got to get stats. So let's see. Erik Karlsson, 37 points in 30 games. Rasmus Dahlin, 32. Where's our friend Filip Hronek? 8th with a plus 11 is the biggest thing for me for Filip Hronek because this guy was a minus 38 last year. And yes, the benefit is that the downfall, unfortunately, of St. Louis is because they've been cherry-picked, including Ville Husso. I mean, if you're St. Louis, would you not love to be giving Ville Husso $3 million a year right now instead of Thomas Greiss, whatever you're paying him? I mean, this is crazy, you know? It makes no sense. It is what it is. Good for Stevie Yzerman and the Detroit Red Wings. This is a bonus. Yeah, Binnington is I like to see Binnington succeed, but Binnington's got a little bit of the jittery craziness about goalies to him, and he acts out. And the coach, I think I said this last time, the coach called him out. Berube is like, enough is enough. Like, this nonsense of complaining about refs and players and getting these little vendettas, like, they got to stop. Hunter away day. Thank you, Hunter. Good morning, Marco. Thank you so much for joining. And I am glad to be back, and we're excited to see the World Cup, even though Canada's not in it. Argentina, Croatia, France versus Morocco, all good news stories. We are excited to see that Canada had a decent showing, and two of the teams that Canada lost to, Croatia thumped them. I was at that game. Canada scored their first World Cup goal against Croatia, and then it was a beautiful set play. And then Canada was just picked apart by Croatia. And I think that is the goalie in Canada formerly from Croatia? There was something about that. I think he was. So there's some vendettas there. There's some weird stuff. Anyways, Morocco, like, Canada lost 2-1 to Morocco. That's the only goal against Morocco in the entire tournament is in the Canada game, but I think it was an own goal. You're recovering from coach playing music over. Oh, no. What the heck happened there? I missed that. Well, guys, let me know. I'd be happy to join you guys at night one day this week. Just let me know what's going on. I'll message coach and we can maybe layer in. Love to see you guys on some sort of a round table. And you're always welcome to join me here in the morning. I am Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, your Detroit Red Wings update. Oh, boy. For almost swearing? Oh, no, that's not good. What happened? Are we a family-friendly show? I guess we are. All right, so looking ahead, the other guy I wanted to just comment on Detroit, if you look at we go all franchises and we look at Detroit Red Wings, we're just kind of like that quarter way through the season. 27 points, 27 games. Between last year and this year, I was very I have always had this question mark, is Dylan Larkin really a number one centerman? I think his game is rounded out so much, and he's so consistent now, and he's found his offensive game that you got to say he needs a contract. right? He's seeking what, 9 million? I think he gets it. Like he's at like 6 million right now, I think. Like, what do you guys think? Do you think that you would sign Dylan Larkin for 6 years times 9 million or 9.2 million? Would you do that at this point? Yep, I am down, boys. Colorado Avalanche, Hockey Nation Live, John DJ. We can take a look at that. I think at this point, you've got to say he is the leader of the team. He has stepped up as captain. He is good all around player, averaging 20 minutes a night. He is 52% in the face-off circle, which look at Andrew Cobb. Wasn't this guy brought in for his defensive prowess? Has he historically been a 47 in the face-off circle? I think you need a lot more from him, although he has picked it up quite a bit offensively, getting a lot of assists. So I don't think you expect too much more than that. You might want some more goals there. But Dylan Larkin, you got to say, like, if you got a point-a-game guy like this, going back to last year, if he is truly a 35-goal, 45-assist guy, you're pretty happy. And to me, that's a $9 million player. And if he's still pretty young, right? Is he 26? How old is Dylan Larkin? He's 26. So, I mean, you've got to say, like, he's in there every night, being their best player overall consistently. So at this point, would you sign Dylan Larkin to a 6 or a 7-year deal at 9 mil? And I got to say, personally, I think I might. What do you guys think? Dominik Kubalik is an absolute steal right now. He's been a little bit off, but still like 10 goals, 15 assists, 25 points. Where would the Red Wings be without this guy? Like they lost Verona, which, you were counting on 25 goals for this guy. So now he's in the whatever program for the NHL assistants. Philip Roenick at 24 points, 27 games, and a plus 11. Way above expectation, you've got to say. This is good news, especially since Moritz Seider's kind of off of his production last year, and the minus 12 is not pretty. On a team that's much better defensively, this is not a good news story. And how much of this is Moritz Seider does not seem to be what Moritz Seider was last year. I mean, he was mean, he was offensive, and, he's still on pace for like 40 points. So that's not horrible. So he's not very far off. But, you've got to think like he can do better. So this is a little bit of sophomore slump from him. Lucas Raymond, a little bit of sophomore slump. Still getting points, 0.6, per game or just under that. But you would hope, I think next year you're going to see a lot more from him. And yes, Andrew Copp, 17 points in 27 games. That's what you would expect from him. I think I would like to see 50% in the faceoff circle. That would be pretty friggin' helpful right now. The guy that's maybe not getting the offensive production that I anticipate is Michael Rasmussen. I don't know what that's all about. Jonathan Berggren's been a really good news story as long as he continues to produce, which I think he will. And there's going to be ups and downs there, but he's pretty consistently good. And, surprises to me, Adam Ernie, he's just consistent every game. You're not going to get a ton of offense from him. Oscar Sundqvist, you don't get too bad offense, but he just does a lot of things that really help you. And Olli Meta, like, this is a great news story. And, what's funny is, like, LA Kings don't keep him, and the LA Kings defense is an absolute friggin' shambles. Larkin has proven that if he's the main man, then he is worth the money. He's 26, so give him 6-8 years. I agree with that. I think that is the way to go. 8.85 would be ideal. I agree with this. Like, in my head, I'm like, if he could settle for 8.5, I'd be really happy with that. 9 feels like a bit of a stretch, but it's not that far off. And yes, I am still toothless. I will be solving that temporarily, at least later today. So if you're wondering what's going on there, that's the deal. Wouldn't you expect to take a Berggren type approach to his own deal as or Bergeron? Like under the market so you can have other players? Maybe. I mean, he feels like at this point he's maybe not as good defensively as Bergeron, but he's doing a lot of good things without the puck. And if he's that kind of captain where he's saying, hey, I'll take a little bit less than the market would bear, so you have room to sign other guys. But you got to keep in mind the salary cap is gonna go up again. Like, I don't know what the current cap is at 88 million. think it might be 80. No, maybe it's 82.5. But I think it's going to go up like 2 or 3 million, they said. So there's going to be more money in the kitty. And right now, Detroit's in pretty good shape. Like, they have a lot of cap room. They're paying him 6. If they add 3 on that, it's not the end of the world. And they got deals on Kubalik. Like, Kubalik's cheap. So they need to sign Bertuzzi. They need to sign Larkin. Do they sign Bertuzzi or do they trade him? Bertuzzi's out still for like another 6-7 weeks with his surgery. So you don't know what you're getting there. Well, I mean, I don't. It's interesting. Like, I thought he played pretty well in LA last year. Now he's added some offense to his game. So he looks like the Ollie Mata of like 6 years ago. And he's playing a pivotal role, and he's letting Filip Hronek do what Filip Hronek does really well. So this has almost been their best pairing. The thing that's worked out poorly, strangely, is Seider and Sherrod, and I don't know the answer there. Do you need to split them up? Is Sherrod playing top minutes maybe not the ideal scenario? It's something to that. Bettman's saying it might be up by 6 million in a couple years. Yeah, because I think they're saying like maybe next year is up 2-3 million. Usually it goes up like $1 million or so a year. So there's going to be definitely Bertuzzi to the Leafs. I'm trying to think of how that would work out. I feel like Toronto needs defense. Am I wrong? And I guess they could, everybody could use a Bertuzzi. He's just that gritty guy. He skates okay, he's not horrible. He does intangible things to score. He's kind of a Radish type guy without being too bad. Like, he gets to the net and scores and finishes things off. How would he play out with, the guy that they miss is they're not missing much right now, but I think in the playoffs they missed like a Zach Hyman type player, right? Like, they still don't really have that. They have a lot of skill and speed, and that's working out in the regular season like they're a juggernaut, but I don't know. Now, Elmer Soderblom, by the way, I think did he drop back into the lineup and I missed it? Yeah, they need a mean defender. Who is that? Most likely they're going to get like a John Klingberg. That's what they're going to get. The guy they need is Ben Sherratt. That's what they need. They need that type of defenseman, right? All right, so not to get lost in the weeds here, but overall, most guys are up. Jonathan Bergen, good story. Pius Suter's had spots where he's performed. I would say disappointing in the overall results with Ben Sherratt. And I don't know who's affected who, whether it's Seider affecting Sherratt or Sherratt affecting Seider, but I feel like that needs to be split up. Tough year for Tyler Bertuzzi again on the injury front. Austin Czarnik's been a real good story. Elmer Soderblom started as a real good story, but he didn't play since November. Did he drop back in? No, he still has not played. So he's still on the mend from an injury. I just don't know. Matt Luft is out long term. Philip Zinnia is out long term. So you got to think like, you got potential if a Soderblom comes back and has a bit of an impact, or does Soderblom go to the AHL? I kind of think the AHL. Bergen right now is performing so well that you don't need Soderblom in the NHL. Like, they're very different players, obviously, and maybe that changes. And then I think Czarnik's been playing real well. Like, I don't mind having him. Yeah, Joel Edmondson would be really good for the Leafs. The Leafs schedule before the All-Star break. Well, let's take a look at that. If you take a look at their schedule, let's take a look here. I don't know when the All-Star break is. So Tuesday, tomorrow night, is a big matchup versus the Carolina Hurricanes. Really good story in Carolina is Martin Necas, or Nietzsche's. How do you guys say it? I've been saying Necas. Don't look now. Brett Burns got 6 points in the last 5 games, and he's having a good year overall. Jacob Slavin performing defensively really well. Ollie Mata +3 in the last 5 games, and Filip Hronek is their leading scorer with 4 points in the last 5 games. Nichas, that makes sense. Okay. David Perron, a couple goals. So they need some offense here in Detroit to get going. The faceoff circle has been a bad story, but they're still 5-3-2. Really, I think this comes down to goaltending and coaching. They've been a pretty good story that way for Detroit, but they're coming up against a really consistent and really tough Carolina Hurricanes team. You got to think they're going to go Husso and not Nedeljkovic. They go Nedeljkovic, I don't know. He's been so terrible this year. And they just called up Magnus Hellberg, so I think that we'll talk about that. KK's got 3 points or 4 points on the year. He scored the other night, right? I mean, this is not a good news story. If you look at the Carolina Hurricanes, great news story. And I don't know why they ever signed this guy, because you had a chance to walk away from this mess and not care, right? Like there's 3 goals, 3 assists in 27 games. Like, come on. This is not getting better. Paul Stastny, I was surprised, got his first goal the other night. He's a -1. So really, and I think Teravainen, he's supposed to come back. I'm not sure if he has yet, but where they're getting it is more the top of the lineup. Nichas, wow. I mean, you could see this on the ice, and you were like, I think we're going to go back and look at his stats over the last few years and go, yeah, of course, he's always been very good. And a lot of people were disappointed in his numbers, and I think we were like, what's going on with this guy? But really, if you look at last year, it wasn't that bad. He had 40 points in 78 games after the lockout. So really like 16, 14, model of consistency. I think a lot of people's stats were padded here, right? Like you had these interdivisional games during the lockout, or not the lockout, the COVID year, right? So maybe his numbers were padded a little early, like a lot of guys were. Now he's a point-a-game player. I mean, he's on a team with like Sebastian Aho, right? Svechnikov, like, and he's right in there in the mix and right ahead of them. Like, this has been a good news story for them. And Brent Burns, as I predicted earlier, 20 points. I said this is off season. Like, this guy might be a Norris candidate or Norris Trophy candidate. What's interesting is his former teammate Erik Karlsson is, right, leading all defensemen in scoring with 37 points in 30 games. So they split them up. Just, that was just a terrible combination to have those 2 types of defensemen on the same line or the same team in San Jose. And you look at, no Joe Pavelski in San Jose, and they crash. The guy that's doing pretty well there is Reimer, by the way. Reimer having, reasonable success there. Jordan Martinook, that's a little bit of a surprise. Seth Jarvis, you probably want some more offense from him, but overall you're going to be pretty happy with this. Stefan Noensen refuses to give up on his NHL dream. This guy, a former first-round draft pick, always finds a way to get back in the NHL and kind of perform a little bit. 7 goals from Jordan Staal. You're not unhappy with that. They really need Teravainen to come back and produce offensively. Kotkaniemi is a total waste of a spot on this team, as is Derek Stepan. These are just not useful players. Paul Stastny, a little surprising. I think they expected a lot more from him. He's averaging 11 minutes a game. What? Okay. And yet, this team is, if you look at the standings, doing pretty good. They're second, 15, 6-6. Only a 7-goal differential. You got to say, pretty good coaching. That's the only thing I can go get down to. Like, who's in net for them? Ronta, sometimes Anderson. And that's in a division where you got New Jersey killing it, Pittsburgh's killing it. Islanders had a great start, but they've kind of fallen off a little bit lately. Rangers slowly finding their way, It's a pretty tough division at the top there. Detroit seemed to be settling in to 4th place here. What did I say about Florida? This is a typical Paul. Oh, yeah, and they will have packs ready. So that we'll see how that works out. I don't know. He's a wild card, right? That's a wild card. They must have known. The NHL All-Star is February 3rd. So, yeah, there was a question about the schedule. So if we look at the schedule for this month, let's take a look here. So we know we got Carolina here on the 13th, back-to-back. Then we got Minnesota. Are they going to go Nedeljkovic versus his former team and then throw Husso at Minnesota? That might make some sense. I mean, I would rather have – they're going to have a better chance of winning versus Minnesota, but I don't know if they play it that way. And then they got Ottawa on Saturday. So the games get a little easier as you go through here. Caps won last night 5-2. Is that right? And then they face Tampa, Ottawa. So it's a busy schedule in December. With Panthers falling out, the Wings can beat out the Rangers or Isles for the wild card. I don't think so. I mean, you've got to think that the Rangers are just going to get stronger and stronger as the season goes. They're focused on the postseason, I think. They had a slow start, but if you look now, suddenly they're 14-10. Yeah, and the Caps are a different team, right? With they don't have historically the same offensive firepower. Ovi is like the king of empty net goals. He gets another empty net goal. Yay! I want to see how many empty net goals Ovi has in his career because, I think he's got 3 in the last 2 games or something. I have no faith. 98 and 98, right? 98 goals for, 98 goals against. If you look at Florida, this is not going to get better. This is the Paul Maurice swarm defense nonsense where they're running around like chickens with their heads cut off. And the goaltending is giving up big rebounds and the team's always out of position. That's like traditional Paul Maurice stuff. So that's why I was like, this is not Joel Quenneville, man. And it may not be. Andrew Brunette at least had the blueprint of Joel Quenneville, and I don't think he did a very good job of managing the bench or the dressing room. I don't understand this move. You went on reputation only. You didn't look at what this guy actually does. He was kind of hidden. 47 empty netters. Wow. Crazy. I guess it makes sense, though. He scored a lot, so I feel like this year he's got 20 of them. He's only got 17 goals, so it's not true. So the wild card is interesting. You've got to think in the wild card. Right now, the Islanders and the Rangers are ahead of Detroit. I do not see that changing. The Islanders are on a little bit of a, they're not as crazy as they were, but it's interesting. The Rangers are 5-6-4 at home. What is going on there? They are 9-4-1. Is New York too much of a distraction? What is happening there? That is so strange. Was it really? Oh, that's hilarious. Coach and I are on the same wavelength. I got to think that the Islanders and the Rangers would finish ahead of Detroit. I think Florida just keeps falling. Does Buffalo figure out the goaltending situation? Because if Buffalo can get a goalie right now, they got some firepower, man. Like Tage Thompson, 41 points, guys. He's 4th in NHL scoring. Now, a 5-goal game don't hurt, but he is just that guy in that stage. I mean, this is the part of the Ryan O'Reilly trade that's working out very well for them many years later. Yes, St. Louis got a cup, and that's all that matters, and I love Ryan, but this is a much younger star player who's really panned out beyond my wildest expectations. I always said to Coach before last year, Tage Thompson's really talented. People are writing this guy off. He's had injury problems. Big, lanky guy. He's got high skill. He's going to be a 20-goal scorer. In no world did I think he was going to be a 40, 50-goal scorer. I mean, he was always a big-time scorer with USA Hockey, but that's crazy. So does Buffalo keep leapfrogging teams? You see Ottawa sort of, getting some traction, but Buffalo, man, if they can get a goalie, did they get a John Gibson? Maybe. Although Rangers right now feel like they're, if you look at last year, Shesterkin was playing out of his mind, right? And I think that it was hiding problems in that lineup. Now, it's not that they're a bad team. Panarin's doing what Panarin does, except he's a -6. So that's not helpful. 34 points, 29 games, 32 points in 29 games for Zibanejad. You have no problem there. And Adam Fox is Adam Foxing. So that's good. And Kreider's Kreidering. So what am I missing here? This guy. This team was better off with Ryan Strome. I maintain that. He's a smaller, skilled player. Ryan Strome is very, very solid. Ryan Strome is the defensive conscience of that second line, and he was the defensive conscience of Perron. And now you see the effect of it. This to me was the move that I was like, I'd rather keep Ryan Strome. I don't understand the negativity around Ryan Strome. MSU, thank you for joining. Here we go again. Win streak turns to losing streak, but they get points. The Rangers could follow the playoff spot. Well, I mean, listen, Halak ain't helping them. They might need to get a goalie too. I think Shesterkin will be fine. I think the issue is here, right there. You're looking at a -6 and a -9, and that to me, if you swap that out and you put Ryan Strome as a plus. So I think that's a big deal. And they continue to bury Lafreniere, Chido, and Kakko. And whenever you put them up in the lineup, which recently they score. They've been playing with Jimmy Vesey on the first line. What? Why is Jimmy Vesey on the first line with the New York Rangers? This makes no sense. Am I wrong? Like, who in their right mind, first of all, would sign Jimmy Vesey? How does this guy keep getting NHL contracts? I will never figure it out. But they've been playing. See, recently they moved up Lafreniere and Kakko, and they scored. They respond. So the day before, though, they had Jimmy Vesey on the top line. And putting Trocheck on the third line is telling. Like, they're trying to find something for Panarin where there's a defensive conscience. And I think Philip Sheetal is capable of that. But why is Barclay Goodrow your second-line right winger? Julien Gauthier better than Jimmy Vesey. That's just my opinion. But you can see here, there's something's got to change here. Like, should Barclay Goodrow not be your third-line center? But he has been a minus as well. So I don't know what's going on. I mean, Barclay Goodrow, am I missing something? Is he not like a third-line center? Halak. Halak's not going to save you. Strome, Bredman chemistry was a thing. Like, why would you move on from that? Look at Kakko, Shiloh, and Trouba not performing to standards. But when they moved Kakko up in the lineup, he scored. And same thing with Lafreniere. The only way the Rangers get into the playoffs is if you lean on those guys. Unless you're going to make some major trade. They need Lafreniere and Kakko to be what they are capable of. Kreider is signed, and they have this problem where they have all these left wingers, right? And that's been burying Lafreniere. I think they're capable of it. Kakko's numbers are terrible, and so are Lafreniere's, but then you look at streaks. And I think when they put him in the lineup, up in the lineup, they started winning, and he started scoring. Let's see. So, yes. Only 9 points in 29 games. That is horrible. But he's been buried. They're burying the guy, along with Lafreniere. And they got to lean on these guys because I think they're capable. And I think they want to play. Am I crazy? So let's take a look. Since they've moved him up, and is it my imagination or has Kakko been scoring? I have 1 goal. So this is terrible. This is terrible. So maybe he's a bust. You got to do something there. There's some problems. I like Gauthier's game too. I think he's capable of scoring. He's a big guy. I mean, what's the difference between, sound weird, but when you look at an Alex Tuch and a Julien Gauthier, very similar frame, very similar skill set. Give the guy a shot because he can score in the NHL. Lafreniere needs to take the next step. Agreed, Hunter. It's time. And Kakko. Whew. Okay, that's bad. So maybe this is over. I don't know. Are they playing the Canadians? I don't know. I think at this point, the reality is they got to lean on these guys to get better and push them to get better and put them in prime time. Not at the expense of missing the playoffs, obviously. But if all you're relying upon is Shesterkin, that's a problem. And I think at some point you've got to say, is the Trocheck move really working out for me? And you know who's going to be available? Ryan Strome. Because Ryan Strome Ryan Strome is in, holy moly, the Anaheim Ducks roster. What is Ryan Strome's numbers like? He's on 40-point pace and a -12. Woo! But it's just a horrible situation over there. So this has not worked out there. But you got to say, like, he's just a consistent player typically. And Ryan Strome is still on pace for 21 goals. And I just don't think he has anyone to get the puck to. Whereas last year, 54 points, a +15, you'd be very happy with that pace if he was making sure that his line mate, Artemi Panarin, was also a plus. And that's why that worked out so well. He's a meat and potatoes guy. He wins some faceoffs. He's good defensively, 200-foot player. And I just think, whew, Kane. Patrick Kane would make a lot of sense for anybody. And especially with his run and gun mate, because I think Patrick Kane's production is off since losing to Brinkat, and Panarin and Kane are magic, right? Like that would be crazy. But who's the centerman? Is it Zibanejad? Probably. But typically Panarin doesn't play with Zibanejad. So you still are back to this issue of, is it Philip Sheetal? Is it, like I think you move Trocheck and I don't know. Move that salary up and grab Ryan Strome, like reunite that. If you had Strome with Panarin and Kane, I know it sounds weird, but Strome worked out so well with Panarin, and if he's the defensive conscious of that line and let Kane and Panarin do the crazy stuff they do, like magic all around. Good morning, Lucky. Thank you so much for joining. We are 3 minutes before the hour. We initially did the review of the Detroit Red Wings. So looking ahead, we have a game tomorrow night versus the Carolina Hurricanes. Oh boy, that's going to be a tough game. Who do they go in net with? Do you think it'll be Nedeljkovic because that's his former team? If so, I think that'll be a blowout by Carolina. But then you come back on the next night on Wednesday with Minnesota Wild. And maybe that's the game that you play Husso. Why not? I think he's capable. He's talented. He's got good size, and he's decent defensively. Can you get Dylan Strome? I don't think you want Dylan Strome, do you? Where is Dylan Strome? Washington? Is Dylan Strome producing offensively? I mean, I think you want Ryan Strome over Dylan Strome. And actually, I think Dylan Strome might be actually working out okay. Let's take a look here. Is Dylan Strome working? Oh, I hate this feature. Why do I do this to myself? NHL, come on. I'm going to go over here because that search feature is terrible. I mean, Dylan Strome, when you played him last year, he's got 22 points this year in 30 games. I mean, there's parts of his game you don't love, but he's the third leading scorer in Washington. And don't look now, but they're winning a little bit. So Kuznetsov and Strome plug in holes where you don't have superstar Nicholas Backstrom anymore. But a -11, oof, that's rough. Yikes, that is painful. It's just weird because they have 2.56 and 2.79 goals against average and over 910 save percentage on the goalies. Like even Charlie Lindgren is 6-3-2. There's something I don't understand about Comfort 8-9-2 is not great. Canes are underwhelming recently. You think it's a gettable game, so then you throw Husso at him? Because the Wild have kind of been on a little bit of an upswing, but do you go back to back with Husso? Probably not. You're going to split it up. They call up Hellberg, so what does that mean? Are they going to go Hellberg? Because I don't think that's much better than Nedeljkovic. You have similar issues. I think they will finish fourth in their division. The question is, do they get it is a better site. Do they get the wild card spot? And I think that's what's in question. But overall, if you're Detroit Red Wings, you're a quarter way through the season, you're pretty happy right now. They're right in the mix ahead of Florida, who should be a better team than Detroit on paper. Should be, but they ain't. And they won't be. They're going to be like win, loss, win, loss. It's going to be up and down like all Palmer's teams. Just rough. But this is not a horrible pickup. You want not a -11. That would be great. But it's just weird because they look like they're getting decent goaltending. Maybe getting Orlov back will help. Yeah, they kind of got one defenseman in Carlson and then a bunch of plugs, right? Like if Nick Jensen is your second leading scorer and if Nick Jensen's a top 4D on your team, you're in trouble. Gustafson, ooh, that's not good. Reemsdyk's a number 6, right? Like this is kind of a mess on defense. So that's kind of a problem. But yeah, you got to say Dylan Strom's worked out pretty well there. 22 points in 30 games. Detroit gets better goaltending than Florida if Husso's in, which is wacky. It shouldn't be that way. You have the... Do you think so? I mean, if Seider is playing up to Seider's potential, which he's, kind of having a little bit of a down year, then that's your Aaron Ekblad. Montour, 22 points, 27 games. You can't be unhappy with that. Forsling's not bad. I like Forsling. So it drops off for sure. I mean, I liked Mark Stahl in Detroit. The other Stahl's got some points. Ooh, he scored the other night. Yeah, they are missing Mike Matheson. Who was the other defenseman? Mackenzie Weegar. Wouldn't you like those guys back if you're Florida right now? That's like an entire second pairing that solves a lot of problems. So Gustafson's horrible, right? Good morning, Greg and John. Thank you for joining here at the end. A healthy Detroit is a scary Detroit. Maybe, if you got Fabry, if Verona comes back at all, which I don't think is going to happen, does Bertuzzi get back in and is he offensively productive? But right now he has not factored in. You want to see more from Michael Rasmussen. You want to see Joe Veleno take another step. Philip Zanina seems like a bust. Jonathan Berggren's a good news story. And maybe Lucas Raymond finishes the year strong. Yeah. But Mark Stahl played pretty well in Detroit. I thought Ben Sherratt would be an upgrade over him. So far, that is not the case. Matheson was with Pittsburgh last year. Okay. So they've which still, when you want one of these guys, like, they've moved out some pieces that don't help. But yes, for sure, Mackenzie Weegar was like their number 2 or 3 D man. So one player like you're like, oh, we just need one defenseman like Mackenzie Weegar. But the Matthew Tkachuk part of the trade is huge. I mean, he's played so well. He has not missed a beat. This is his team now, right? Maybe even over Mr. Barkov. Yeah, I mean, listen, Tampa's going to keep pulling away. They have a problem with the backup goalie and the offense, so we got to figure that out. If you had Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider playing the way they did last year, and maybe some of this is just the way the Red Wings are playing that they're adjusting to, because it's a more cautious style. They're trying to be on the right side of the puck. Kubelik's fun to watch sometimes, He can be real effective in that system. I love watching and waiting for Jonathan Berggren to get points. If they have a Tyler Bertuzzi, he fits it very well. Robbie Fabry would fit very well with this system if Elmer Soderblom gets back healthy. So there's a lot of pieces there that could draw in. And you see Zarnik's had success. So I don't know. They're kind of fun to watch because they're successful. They're winning. I don't think you're going to see a crazy... It's going to be like watching the Tampa Bay Lightning. You can watch the Lightning go, oh my God, they're so fun. This is not the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is not showboat hockey. Could you see Buffalo getting better at defense goalie this year? Well, I think that, if you're Buffalo, you're looking at... They're trying to go with Pekka Luongo. They're giving him a chance, and he's performing worse than the other 2 goalies. So that's kind of weird. Does somebody liberate John Gibson and resurrect his career? Because he is dying on the vine in Anaheim. And John Gibson in Buffalo, to me, turns it around and becomes a 905 or 910 save percentage guy, and he gets really inspired. I think John Gibson in Buffalo would be huge, and they've got enough dry powder that they could move a player to Anaheim that's a young player and maybe a young goalie that Pat Verbeek would like, or a draft pick. They'd be fine. Like, does Buffalo need another first round draft pick at this point? Like, Jack Quinn is up in the standings on that team. Tage Thompson, the part of the Ryan O'Reilly trades there. He's young. If you look what's in the lineup, Dylan Cousins, point a game player all of a sudden. Alex Tuch trade really worked out. The Jack Eichel trade, the guy that's actually still dry powder is Peyton Krebs. So I'm a little surprised at this. Too many penalty minutes for Peyton and not enough points. So you got to think, and JJ Peterka's worked out real well. They love JJ Peterka. You got to love JJ Peterka. You got 12 goals from Olofsson, but you can, these two guys are kind of like defensively not your favorite things, but they get points. And Skinner's having another up Skinner year, mainly because he's playing with Tage Thompson. So you look at this lineup and you go, I got some pieces there that I can move. Do you trade? I don't know if they want Casey Middlestad in Anaheim, and they're using him in Buffalo, but I just don't see this working out long term. Like, he's just too soft and too kind of something lazy about his game. You could move a Peyton Krebs again. Tyson Jost ain't working. I don't know. Is he in Buffalo? I thought he was in Minnesota. Did they let him go? Oh, yeah, there was like a pickup. I forgot about that. So I don't know. If you gave up a first-round draft pick and you're the Buffalo Sabres, you're not that worried to get a John Gibson. And, this by now should have worked out. And Luukkonen is not working out as what you would need. They have Devin Levy in the wings, and I'm not sure that's an NHL goalie. Which of the 4 top divisional team goes in and out of the first round? Logically, I would say the Rangers and the Islanders are in ahead of Detroit, but not by much. Detroit is really well coached, and I think, well, then this is the problem. This makes no goddamn sense. Like, what are you doing? Ugh. I don't think this can't be true. This makes no sense. You're so lazy that you want to stay in the sunshine here in Orange County with a team that's going nowhere. So gross. Buffalo, man, would be like, okay, well, Buffalo is not Anaheim, sure, but you can win. Like, Buffalo's winning without goaltending, really. Eli Tolvanen placed on waivers. This guy is a bust. He's had 2 11-goal seasons. Does it mirrors? I feel like Ottawa goes for Karlsson more a PR trade. That will not happen. I cannot ever see that happen. Erik Karlsson is out of Ottawa forever. I think Erik Karlsson would rather just stay in San Jose than do that. And I don't think Ottawa wants to revisit that. That would be a nightmare. Tolvanen? Whatever. Not impressing me so far in his NHL career. Should have been a big-time scorer. Erik Karlsson still lives in Ottawa in the offseason? What? Why? That makes no sense. I like the summer in Ottawa. Well, if that is true, that is weird. Is that what Ottawa needs? Is Erik Karlsson? Oh my God, exactly. Like, come on. That makes no sense to me. I don't see this happening. All right, boys, we are 10 minutes past the hour. I want to thank you so much for all your comments. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Enertap. Thank you, Lucky. Thank you for Grega John. Thank you for Hunter, MSU, for joining. Really appreciate seeing you guys in the morning. I will be back on Wednesday morning to recap the game. And thank you to RJ Calabro. Thank you so much for joining. I really, really appreciate it in the morning. I would love to grow this a little bit. And if you were watching this afterwards, and Nicholas was here as well. So thank you, Nicholas. Please hit the like, share this with your friends. If you're watching this and it's not live, then do the same thing. I will be live again Wednesday morning, same bat time, same bat channel, which is 8:15 Pacific, 11:15 Eastern time. We will recap the Carolina game and look forward to that night's game against the Minnesota Wild. Exciting week. There's some really good players to watch in Carolina. You get to see Kaprizov on Wednesday. So tune into both those games, Detroit Red Wings and Hockey Nation fans. And I will try to join the Hockey Nation live one time this week. I will message Coach and find an appropriate night that I can join you guys. Would love to be on a roundtable with Enertap and with Marco. All right, have a wonderful day, and we will see you in the funny papers.